The first thing I noticed when I opened my front door wasn't the overturned furniture or the scattered papers. It was the silence, that heavy, unnatural quiet that wraps around you like a burial shroud, whispering that something is terribly wrong. I'm Audrey, and I just spent 3 days at a corporate retreat, learning how to trust my colleagues through ridiculous team-building exercises. Now I'm standing in my ransacked living room, realizing I should have been more concerned about trusting my own family. My fingers trembled as I dialed Ryan's number. 1 ring, 2 rings, the familiar click of voicemail. Of course, my dear husband was probably at his mother's house, pretending not to know why his wife was calling. Ryan, someone broke into the house. The safe is open. Call me back immediately. I walked through the debris of my violated home, cataloging the damage. Photo frames face down, drawers pulled out and emptied, couch cushions slashed open. But they hadn't been looking for money or jewelry. No, this was personal. They went straight for what mattered most. My grandmother's letters, the only pieces I had left of her. My phone buzzed. Not Ryan. Evan from work. How was the drive back? He asked. Someone broke into my house. My voice cracked. The safe. They knew the combination. Evan. Jesus. Are you okay? Do you need me to come over? No. I know exactly who did this. I kicked aside a torn magazine. Helen's fingerprints are all over this mess. She's been trying to get those letters for months. Your mother-in-law. Why would she? Because she can't stand that Ryan married someone who won't bow to her every whim. I reached the kitchen, where even the cabinets had been emptied. She thinks those letters prove my grandmother's family wronged hers decades ago. Some ancient real estate dispute she won't let die. Call the police, Evan said. And tell them what? That my mother-in-law used a key my husband probably gave her to steal family documents. That my sister-in-law probably helped because she's bitter about her divorce and wants to hurt someone else's marriage. I laughed, but it came out hollow. They're too smart for that. They'll say Ryan gave them permission. It'll be my word against the entire Miller family. The basement door stood open. I hadn't checked down there yet. I have to go, Evan. I need to see what else they took. Audrey, wait. I hung up and descended the stairs, each step creaking under my feet. The basement light flickered on, revealing more chaos. But something caught my eye. A small piece of paper trapped under a fallen box. I pulled it free. It was a receipt from the hardware store 3 days ago for a duplicate key. My phone buzzed again. Ryan. Where are you? I asked before he could speak. At Mom's. Listen, Audrey, I can explain. Did you give her a key? Silence. Then, she said she just wanted to look for some old family photos while you were away. I didn't think. You never do think when it comes to her, do you? I crushed the receipt in my fist. Those letters were all I had left of my grandmother, Ryan, the only things that were truly mine. We can talk about this when I get home. No. The word came out sharp enough to cut. We'll talk about this in front of everyone. I'm coming over there right now. And Ryan, tell your mother to prepare for war. I ended the call and stood in my destroyed basement, surrounded by the wreckage of trust. They thought they could break me, make me submit to their control, like everyone else in their lives. But they had no idea what they'd just started. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent isn't the one who strikes first. It's the one who knows how to strike back harder. Helen's pristine living room made my skin crawl. Everything perfectly arranged, not a cushion out of place, while my house lay in ruins across town. The family photos on her walls told their own story. Ryan and Chloe's childhood moments, carefully curated to show Helen's version of reality. Not a single picture of my wedding day among them. I have no idea what you're talking about. Helen's voice dripped honey-sweet poison as she poured tea into delicate cups. Ryan gave me permission to look for old family albums while you were away. Nothing more. Chloe sat beside her mother, arms crossed, wedding ring conspicuously absent. You're being hysterical, Audrey, as usual. I placed the hardware store receipt on the coffee table. Funny how you needed a new key made 3 days ago. Planning ahead? Ryan shifted in his seat, eyes darting between his mother and me. Maybe we should all calm down. Oh, we're very calm, I said, watching Helen's perfectly manicured fingers tighten around her teacup. Just like we were calm last Christmas when you went through my phone while I was sleeping. Or last month when you showed up unannounced at my office to check on me. I worry about my son, Helen said. Someone needs to look out for his interests. His interests. My laugh felt like broken glass in my throat. Or yours. Mother was right about you from the start. Chloe leaned forward, eyes gleaming. You never understood our family, always keeping secrets, hiding things in that safe of yours. Those letters belong to my grandmother. Letters that prove your family cheated ours 60 years ago. Helen's mask cracked. That property should have been ours. Your grandmother knew exactly what she was doing when she… Mother! Ryan's warning came too late. I stood slowly, pieces clicking into place. So you admit you took them? Helen's face smoothed over instantly. I admitted nothing. And you have no proof. You're right. I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over the record button. But I will. Ryan, are you coming home or staying here? He looked at his mother, then at me. Always torn, always choosing the path of least resistance. I think maybe we all need space to cool off. Wrong answer. I headed for the door, pausing to look back at Helen. You know what's funny? Those letters you stole? They're not even the originals. Just copies I kept as decoys. Grandmother taught me well. Always keep what matters most, where manipulative people can't reach it. Helen's teacup clattered against its saucer. You're lying. Am I? Guess you'll have to wonder about that, along with what else I might have hidden away. I met Ryan's eyes. Don't bother coming home tonight, or maybe ever. Audrey, wait. He started to rise, but Chloe grabbed his arm. Let her go, she said. She's just trying to manipulate you, like always. I closed the door on Helen's perfectly ordered world and walked to my car. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel, but not from fear. The originals were safe, just as I'd said, locked away in a safety deposit box since the day I married Ryan, and saw the hunger in Helen's eyes when grandmother's letters were mentioned at the wedding. My phone buzzed. Evan again. How bad was it? He asked. They took the bait, Helen practically confessed. I started the engine. But I need your help with something else. Remember that security system you installed at your lake house? The one with the hidden cameras. Yeah, why? Because I'm done playing defense. They want to go through my things? Let's make sure we catch them in the act next time. I pulled away from Helen's house, watching it shrink in my rearview mirror. And Evan, thank you for being the one person in my life who actually listens. Always. But Audrey, just be careful. People like that, they're most dangerous when they're cornered. I ended the call, mind already racing with plans. Helen thought she knew everything about me, had me all figured out. But she'd forgotten one crucial detail. I'd spent 3 years watching her manipulate everyone around her. I'd learned from the best. And now it was time to put those lessons to use. The coffee shop across from Helen's favorite salon wasn't my usual spot, but it gave me a perfect view. I'd been watching for 2 hours when Evan slid into the seat across from me, pushing a fresh cup toward my hands. The cameras are set up, he said. Motion sensors, night vision, everything feeding directly to your phone. But are you sure about this? I nodded toward the salon's window, where Helen and Chloe sat getting their weekly manicures. Listen. I pressed play on my phone, their voices crystal clear through the bug I'd planted in Helen's purse during our confrontation. We need those original letters, Helen was saying. That safety deposit box has to be at her bank downtown. Ryan says she's been going through their financial records, Chloe replied, probably planning to divorce him and take everything. Over my dead body. I didn't spend 30 years building this family's reputation to have her destroy it. We're going back to the house tomorrow while she's at work. There has to be something we can use against her. I stopped the recording. Still think I'm paranoid? Evan's face hardened. We should take this to the police. And tell them what? That my mother-in-law is planning to rob me. They'll say it's a family matter. I wrapped my hands around the warm cup. Besides, I want more than just stopping them. I want them to face consequences for once in their privileged lives. My phone buzzed. Ryan calling again. Third time today. I declined it. He's been sleeping at their house, I said. Probably plotting with them, trying to figure out where the originals are. Or maybe he's worried about you. Then he should have worried before giving them a key to our house. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth before choosing them over me. Again. A text from Ryan. Please come home. We need to talk. Home, I muttered. Like that means anything anymore. Evan leaned forward. Audrey, I know you're hurt, but the salon door chimed. Helen and Chloe emerged, fresh manicures gleaming. They headed toward Helen's Mercedes, but Helen paused, looking directly at the coffee shop window. I didn't move, couldn't breathe. Her lips curved into that knowing smile I'd grown to hate. She knew I was watching. Time to go, I said, standing abruptly. They'll be at my house tomorrow at 10, according to their usual schedule. That's when we'll catch them. Evan raised an eyebrow. I thought you wanted to handle this yourself. I do, but I gathered my things, hands shaking slightly. I can't face them alone anymore. I need someone in my corner. Always. He touched my arm gently. Just promise me something. Don't let revenge consume you. I've seen what it does to people. I watched Helen's car pull away, remembering the day she'd first shown her true colors. Our wedding reception, when she'd cornered me in the bathroom. You'll never be good enough for this family, she'd said. One day, Ryan will realize that. This isn't about revenge, I told Evan. It's about justice, and maybe saving Ryan from them, even if he doesn't want to be saved. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. I opened it and felt my blood freeze. Found something interesting in your grandmother's old law firm records. Tomorrow noon, Riverside Park. Come alone, or Ryan learns everything about the Anderson case. Evan noticed my expression. What's wrong? I closed the message, mind racing. The Anderson case, my grandmother's biggest regret. The secret she'd taken to her grave. The real reason Helen hated our family. Nothing, I lied, forcing a smile. Just work stuff. I should go prepare for tomorrow. But as I walked to my car, Helen's words from 3 years ago echoed in my head. One day Ryan will realize that. Maybe she was right. Maybe tomorrow he would. And maybe it was time he did. Riverside Park looked different at noon. Colder somehow. I sat on a bench, clutching a manila envelope. Ammunition for whatever game Helen was playing. The Anderson case, files my grandmother had sealed away decades ago. Now a weapon in my hands. A shadow fell across my lap. Not Helen. Ryan? My voice cracked. What are you? Mother told me everything. He sat beside me, leaving careful space between us. About the Anderson case. About what your grandmother did to our family. The envelope felt heavier. Did she tell you how your grandfather tried to blackmail mine? How he threatened to destroy their law firm unless they gave him that property? That's not. He stopped, rubbing his face. She said you'd try to twist things. Like she twisted you. I turned to face him. When did you give her the safe combination, Ryan? His silence was answer enough. The day after our wedding, I continued. When she convinced you I was hiding something. That's why you've been checking our bank statements, right? Looking for evidence I'm stealing from you? I was protecting our family. Our family. The laugh that escaped me didn't sound like my voice. There is no our family. There's only ever been yours. My phone buzzed. Evan texting about the cameras he'd installed. Everything was ready for tomorrow's trap. But suddenly, it all felt hollow. She's using you, I said softly. She always has. And you let her because it's easier than standing up to her. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I stood, dropping the envelope in his lap. Here, the precious Anderson case files. Proof that your grandfather was the one who committed fraud, not mine. Proof that your mother's been lying all these years. He stared at the envelope. How did you get them? From my grandmother's old partner. Turns out he's been waiting years for someone to finally expose the truth. I stepped back. But you know what? Keep them. Burn them. Give them to Helen. I don't care anymore. Audrey, wait. I filed for divorce yesterday. The words hung between us like shattered glass. Ryan's face went pale. You what? Check your email. The papers should arrive today. My hands were steady now. I'm done being the villain in Helen's story. Done watching you choose them over me. Done pretending we have a marriage worth saving. He stood, reaching for me. We can fix this. I'll talk to Mother. That's exactly the problem. I moved away from his touch. Your first instinct is still to run to her. It always will be. My phone buzzed again. Helen this time. Where are you? We had a deal. I typed back, deals changed. Ask Ryan about the files. You can't just throw away 3 years of marriage, Ryan said. You already did that when you gave them the key to our house. I started walking away, then paused. You know what the saddest part is? I actually thought I could save you from them, but you don't want to be saved. Audrey. Goodbye, Ryan. I walked through the park, past the spot where he proposed, past the bench where we used to have Sunday picnics. My phone kept buzzing. Helen, Ryan, even Chloe. I silenced them all. Only Evan's message got through. Cameras are live. You still want to go through with tomorrow's plan? I stopped at the park exit, looking back one last time. Ryan stood where I'd left him, envelope clutched in his hands, looking lost. For a moment, my resolve wavered. Then I remembered the ransacked house, the violated safe. 3 years of subtle manipulation and gaslighting. Yes, I texted back. But change of plans. I don't just want to catch them in the act anymore. What do you want? I watched Ryan pull out his phone, probably calling Helen, always running back to Mother. I want to destroy them, I typed, all of them. Because sometimes the only way to save yourself is to burn everything to the ground and start over. The security camera feed flickered on my laptop screen as I sat in my car across the street. 10 minutes until Helen's usual Thursday morning intrusion. Evan's sophisticated setup captured every angle of my house. Front door, back door, even the garden path Helen loved to criticize. You don't have to watch this, Evan said from the passenger seat. We can just let the cameras record. I need to see it. My knuckles whitened around my coffee cup. Need to know exactly how they do it. Right on schedule, Helen's Mercedes glided to a stop in front of my house. She stepped out, perfectly coiffed as always, followed by Chloe. But then a third door opened. Ryan. The coffee cup crumpled in my grip. He's helping them. They approached the front door, Ryan glancing nervously over his shoulder. Helen said something, gesturing impatiently. He pulled out a key, not the copy, but his original. Jesus, Evan muttered. Audrey, maybe we should… Wait, I grabbed his arm as a fourth figure emerged from Helen's car. Who is that? The man in the expensive suit walked with authority, carrying a briefcase. He looked familiar somehow. That's James Morton, Evan said. Helen's lawyer. I've seen him at charity events. The group disappeared inside my house. I switched between camera views, watching them move through rooms with disturbing familiarity. Helen directed them like a general commanding troops. The study, she was saying, voice clear through the hidden microphones. Those Anderson files have to be here somewhere. Mother, she said she gave them to me, Ryan protested weakly. Copies, obviously. You think your wife would give up her only leverage? Search everything. I watched them tear through my home again, but this time was different. This time, I saw Ryan's hands shaking as he opened drawers, saw Chloe's satisfied smirk as she knocked books off shelves, saw Helen's mask slip when she thought no one was watching, revealing raw desperation beneath. The safe, Morton said suddenly. Did you check behind it? My breath caught. The wall safe had been a decoy. Everyone knew about it. But behind it, there's nothing back there, Ryan said quickly, too quickly. Helen's eyes narrowed. Move it. Mother, move it. I grabbed my phone, fingers hovering over 911. Behind that safe was a hidden compartment, installed by the previous owner. Inside were documents far more damaging than the Anderson case. Evidence of Helen's own financial misconduct, carefully gathered over 3 years of watching and waiting. Ryan stepped forward, then stopped. No. What did you say? Helen turned on him. I said no. His voice strengthened. This ends now. We're leaving. After everything I've done for you. Helen's calm cracked. That woman has poisoned you against your own family. That woman is my wife. Not anymore, Morton interrupted smoothly. The divorce papers were filed yesterday. You have no legal right to prevent us from… From what? I stepped into the doorway, phone recording everything. Breaking and entering, destruction of property, conspiracy. They froze like guilty children, except Helen. She smiled that knowing smile. Perfect timing, dear. We were just discussing the Anderson case and other family matters. I can see that. I moved further into the room, Evan close behind. But you made one mistake, Helen. You got sloppy. Desperate. I don't know what you mean. The Anderson case was never about property fraud, was it? It was about covering up what really happened. What you did. Her smile slipped. You're confused. The real documents aren't behind that safe. They're already with the district attorney. I met Ryan's stunned gaze, along with proof that your mother embezzled millions from her own charity foundation. That's why she's so desperate to find evidence against my family. To protect herself. The room erupted in chaos. Helen lunged for her lawyer. Chloe started screaming. Ryan stood frozen between them all. But I kept my eyes on Helen, watching her perfect world crumble. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about letting them destroy themselves. And sometimes justice comes from simply telling the truth. The police lights painted my living room in alternating red and blue. Helen sat primly on the couch, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face as she spoke to the officers. I was just trying to protect my son, she sobbed. From her, she pointed at me, and I watched 3 years of careful planning crumble. Mrs. Miller was threatening our family, Morton added smoothly. We have evidence of her harassment, her obsession with destroying her mother-in-law's reputation. The break-in was merely an attempt to recover documents that rightfully belonged to the family. My phone felt heavy in my pocket, the recording of their intrusion now useless. They'd gotten ahead of me, turned it all around, just like Helen always did. That's not true, Ryan said suddenly. All eyes turned to him. Mother, stop. Just stop. Helen's tears vanished instantly. Ryan, dear, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. He stepped away from her, toward me, but I backed away. Too little, too late. The embezzlement accusations, they're true, aren't they? That's why you've been so desperate to destroy Audrey's family's reputation, to cover your tracks. Everything I did was for this family. Helen's mask shattered completely. That money secured your future, your sister's future, and she jabbed a finger at me, threatened to ruin everything. The officers exchanged glances. One spoke into his radio. Mrs. Helen Miller, we're going to need you to come down to the station. This is absurd. I'm the victim here. She turned to her lawyer. Morton, do something. But Morton was already edging toward the door. I think our professional relationship has concluded, Helen. Given the circumstances, everything happened quickly after that. Helen screaming as they led her away. Chloe following, wailing about family loyalty. Morton slipping out during the chaos. The evidence I'd gathered being collected, documented, tagged. Ryan stayed. Audrey, he started. Don't. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold. Just don't. I didn't know about the charity money, about any of it, I swear. But you knew about the break-ins, the harassment, the lies. My voice cracked. You chose them. Every single time, you chose them. I can fix this. Fix what? I gestured at our destroyed home. My grandmother's letters are still gone. Our marriage is over. Your mother's going to jail. What exactly can you fix? Evan appeared in the doorway. Audrey, the detective needs your statement. I moved to follow him, but Ryan caught my arm. I love you, he said desperately. Isn't that worth something? I looked at his hand on my arm. remembering every touch, every promise, every moment I'd thought we were building something real. Then I remembered watching him help them break into our home, watching him choose his mother's lies over my truth one last time. Love without trust isn't love, I said quietly. It's just another form of control. I pulled away, leaving him standing in the wreckage of our life together. The detective waited with more questions, more forms, more procedures, hours of explaining how I'd gathered evidence of Helen's embezzlement, how I'd documented her harassment, how I'd watched my marriage die slowly, under the weight of manipulation and lies. Later, alone in my car, I pulled out my grandmother's last letter, the real one, not the copy Helen had stolen, the one I'd kept close all these years. "Remember, dear heart," she'd written. "Sometimes winning means walking away. Sometimes the greatest victory is in refusing to play their game at all." My phone buzzed. Ryan again. I declined the call and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I could see him standing in the doorway of what used to be our home, looking lost. For a moment, my heart ached. But as I drove away, I realized something. In trying to destroy Helen, I'd almost become her. Manipulative, obsessed with control, willing to sacrifice anything for victory. My grandmother had been right. The real win wasn't in bringing Helen down. It was in finally setting myself free. The courthouse hallway stretched endless and cold. I sat on a hard wooden bench, watching Helen's society friends whisper among themselves as they waited for her arraignment. 3 weeks since the break-in, and still they couldn't quite believe their charitable board president was facing embezzlement charges. Ryan appeared at the end of the hall, dark circles under his eyes. Chloe clung to his arm, shooting daggers at me with her eyes. I focused on my phone, pretending to read emails. "Audrey," his voice was closer than I expected. "Can we talk?" "The divorce papers are with your lawyer," I said without looking up. "Just sign them." "That's not," he sat beside me, too close. "Mother wants to make a deal." Now I looked at him. "A deal?" "She'll return your grandmother's letters, all of them, if you drop the charges." A laugh bubbled up, bitter as coffee grounds. "You really don't get it, do you? She's still my mother. And that's all that matters, right?" I stood, needing distance. Even after everything she did, everything she stole, she made mistakes. Mistakes, my voice carried, making heads turn. She systematically destroyed our marriage, terrorized me in my own home, stole millions from her own charity. Those aren't mistakes, Ryan. They're choices. Helen's lawyer appeared, beckoning to Ryan. But before he could move, the courthouse doors burst open. Evan rushed in, clutching a manila envelope. "Got it," he said, breathing hard. "Found it in Morton's office." I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a single document, a letter from Helen to her lawyer, dated 3 years ago, the day before my wedding. "What is that?" Ryan asked. "Insurance," I said, scanning the contents. "In case I ever threatened her control over you." I looked up as Helen entered in handcuffs, flanked by officers. She planned this from the beginning. The harassment, the break-ins, everything. It was all calculated to make me look unstable, obsessed with the Anderson case. Helen's eyes locked onto the letter. For the first time, I saw real fear there. "Where did you get that?" she demanded. "Your lawyer isn't as loyal as you thought." I held up the letter. "You documented everything, Helen. Every step of your plan to destroy me. And now everyone's going to know exactly who you are. You ungrateful little—" She lunged forward, but the officers held her back. "Mother, stop." Ryan moved between us. "Just stop." Helen's face crumpled. "Everything I did was for you, to protect you from her." "From what?" Ryan's voice cracked. "From being happy? From having a life outside your control. She never loved you like I do." "No," I interrupted. "I loved him enough to let him choose. You loved him enough to make sure he never could." The whispers around us grew louder. Helen's friends watched in horror as their perfect society matron shattered before their eyes. Chloe backed away from her mother, finally seeing the truth she'd helped enable. The arraignment's starting. Evan said softly. I handed the letter to the district attorney, who'd been waiting quietly nearby. Then I turned to Ryan one last time. I did love you, I said. But love shouldn't hurt like this. Audrey, please. Goodbye, Ryan. I walked away as Helen was led into the courtroom, her carefully constructed world collapsing behind me. My phone buzzed. A text from my grandmother's old law partner. Found something in the archives. It read, "Your grandmother would be proud." Outside, the autumn air felt clean and sharp. Evan caught up with me at the bottom of the courthouse steps. "You okay?" he asked. I watched leaves scatter across the pavement, breaking free from their branches, carried away by the wind. "No," I said honestly, "but I will be. Because sometimes winning isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about refusing to let them destroy you. And sometimes the greatest revenge is simply walking away, head held high, leaving them to face the consequences of their own choices." The last box from my old life sat unopened on my new apartment floor. Through the window, downtown lights glittered like scattered stars, so different from the suburban darkness I'd left behind. My phone lit up. Evan's text about Helen's sentencing. 5 years for embezzlement. The society pages were already buzzing with scandal. Her carefully crafted reputation shattered like a dropped teacup. A knock at the door made me freeze. I knew that pattern. 3 quick taps, 1 slow. Ryan stood in the hallway, holding a familiar leather-bound bundle. "Grandmother's letters," I said, throat tight. "Found them in Mother's study while cleaning out the house." He held them out like a peace offering. "They were always yours." I took the bundle, fingers tracing the worn edges. "How is she?" "Angry. Bitter." He shrugged. "Chloe's in therapy. Says she's starting to understand some things about our family. And you?" "Learning to stand on my own." He glanced past me into the apartment. "You're painting." An easel stood by the window, canvas half covered in bold strokes of red and gold, something I discovered by accident, a way to pour out everything words couldn't express. "It helps," I said simply. "Audrey, I don't." I stepped back, creating distance. "We both know why it ended." "I know, He pulled out an envelope. The signed divorce papers. "And something else you should see." Inside was a newspaper clipping from 30 years ago, a small article about a young Helen Miller, before she married into money, desperately trying to prove herself worthy of high society. "She was always afraid," Ryan said quietly, "of losing control, of being exposed as not good enough. I'm not excusing what she did, but I understand it now. Understanding doesn't make it right. No, but it helps me not become her." A siren wailed somewhere in the city below. In my old life, I would have flinched at the noise. Now it felt like a reminder. Life goes on, changes, transforms. "I never wanted revenge," I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. "I just wanted to be free." "I know, that's why you won." He turned to leave, then paused. "The painting, it's beautiful." After he left, I opened the bundle of letters. My grandmother's words flowed across the pages, telling stories of strength, of standing up to bullies, of choosing integrity over revenge. But one passage caught my eye, written just before she died. "Remember, dear heart, some people will try to dim your light because they fear their own darkness. Your power lies not in fighting them, but in continuing to shine." I picked up my brush, adding touches of blue to the canvas. Not everything needed resolution. Not every story needed a neat ending. Sometimes victory wasn't in destroying your enemies, or even forgiving them. Sometimes it was in discovering who you really were without them. My phone buzzed again. Evan inviting me to dinner. Not a date, not yet, but maybe someday. For now, friendship was enough. For now, I had my freedom, my truth, my art. The city lights flickered, casting shadows that danced across my canvas. In my old life, I would have seen threats in those shadows. Now I saw possibilities, patterns, stories waiting to be told. I picked up another brush. The night was young, the canvas was waiting. And for the first time in years, I felt truly, completely free. Not because I'd won, not because Helen lost, but because I'd finally learned the difference between revenge and liberation. And in that difference, I found myself.
Hi, Tracy. I'm marrying a guy with an annual income of $100,000. Are you jealous? Sorry, I received a call from my sister, who had stolen my fiancé. She was laughing loudly and saying sorry, obviously not feeling sorry at all. Oh, but make sure you come to the wedding. I think you'll feel miserable, but you have to attend because we're family. She always wants to be superior to me. I wonder if she'll be satisfied if I cry and feel frustrated. Unfortunately, I cannot meet her expectations. I replied cheerfully. Really, congratulations on marrying a guy who takes home $1,500 a month. What? On the other end of the phone, my sister made a ridiculous noise. She's the one who's mistaken. My name is Tracy. I'm 31 years old and engaged to be married. My fiancé named Ben is 27 years old. We met in a park early in the morning. I run occasionally to refresh myself from my busy daily work. That's when I met Ben, who was walking his dog, a golden retriever. The dog was friendly and jumped on me as I ran, which started our conversation. Whoa. Sorry. Are you okay? I'm fine, just surprised. Your dog is cute. When I stopped and said that, he happily replied. It's cute, isn't it? Do you like dogs? I love them. Yes, I like them too. I have a Chihuahua back at my parents' home. Really? Chihuahuas are cute too, he said, laughing. Looking closer, he had a very handsome face. He was also friendly like his dog. We met again in the park the next day and sat on a bench together for a rest. As we talked, we found out we had mutual acquaintances, and we quickly grew closer. It didn't take long for us to start dating. What? I don't mind the age difference. Tracy, you are young, and I enjoy being with you. I like that you spoil me. Until then, I had been focused solely on work, but I fell for Ben, who was younger and good at being pampered. Work was still busy every day. But knowing I would see Ben made it bearable, and he was my comfort. So, when he proposed, I was so surprised at myself for how quickly I said yes. Even though I'm younger and not so reliable, will you marry me? Wow. I'm happy. Yes, of course I will. After deciding to marry, a few days later, I took the opportunity when I was alone with my mother to bring it up. Mom, I want to bring someone I want to marry to meet you. Is that okay? What, Tracy, really? Congratulations. What kind of person is he? As I spoke shyly, my mother was very pleased. She was excitedly looking at the calendar and said she would check with my dad. Relieved, I was about to go back to my room when suddenly, my sister Nicole appeared. Oh, you're back? What? Are you getting married? Did you hear that? How long have you been there? Wow, there are really guys who like weird things. I heard he's younger. Aren't you being deceived? What do you mean? I mean, unlike me, you've never really had a boyfriend, have you? You're all work and zero feminine charm. Zero is an exaggeration, isn't it? I have my own style, even if it's different from what my sister likes. Right now, there are lots of guys who target older women for their money. Oh, I get it, he's a host. That's just business talk, not serious. That's not it. So you met through an app. That's not it. He really loves me. Don't say such rude things. No way. He loves you? A plain Jane like you could be so confident? I'm not saying that. Desperate people are so scary. I'm currently dating a model and a businessman. I'm wondering which one to make my main squeeze when another guy confessed to me. Being too popular is also tough. Oh, that's good for you. I casually brushed her off and returned to my room, thinking she was as usual. She has always been like this. Unlike me with my plain face, my sister is very cute and fully aware of it. Which is why she puts effort into her fashion and makeup, and she is very popular. In the past, I was proud of my cute sister, but as she was spoiled by those around her, she became increasingly arrogant. As a result, she began to look down on me, her older sister. There's one thing she can't match me in: academics. I've always had a dream and diligently studied since I was young. And I didn't want to lose to her in studies. Our parents praised me every time I did well in tests or exams. It must have been frustrating for my sister that there was something she couldn't surpass me in. She tried to drive a wedge between my best friend and me by telling her lies. And she even casually stole my first boyfriend during high school. Even when our parents scolded her after finding out, it was too late. She never apologized to me, and her personality didn't change. As I grew up, I started keeping my distance. It's been a while since we had a proper conversation, but she hasn't changed at all. But once I'm married, I'll be leaving this house, and it's just a bit more patience for me. Then came the day of the introduction. Ben came to my house. After greeting my parents, we relaxed, drinking coffee. My parents seemed to welcome him, and the conversation was lively. So, even though we're in different fields, our desire to help is the same, right? That's right, it's like you are both doctors. But Ben is. Huh? A doctor? Then suddenly, my sister appeared. Hello. So, this is the fiancé? Quite handsome. Nicole. I thought you were out. I was surprised, despite having subtly checked with my mother to choose a day when my sister Nicole would not be home. Of course I'd come to greet him because he's my sister's fiancé, after all. With a malicious smile, Nicole said, "Nice to meet you. I'm Nicole, Tracy's sister." She approached Ben with a broad smile. I had a bad feeling. Wow, 27 years old? Just a year younger than me. Nice to meet you. Nicole interacted with Ben in an overly familiar manner. Ben, slightly blushing, talked with a smile. Suddenly, memories of my boyfriend being stolen in the past resurfaced. However, just the other day, Nicole was bragging about her elite boyfriend. And surely as an adult, she wouldn't steal my fiancé. I thought, Tracy, can we pretend this marriage never happened? I've decided to date Nicole and want to break up. 2 weeks later, Ben told me this nonchalantly. Nicole, with her arm around him, laughed as if she had one. Sorry for taking your fiancé. But I can't help it, he said he fell in love with me at first sight because I'm cuter. Oh, being cute is really a sin. Nicole sat there arrogantly, her apology not sounding like one at all. I didn't know Tracy had such a cute sister. We're close in age and get along well. Sorry, anyway. But it's good it happened before the wedding, right? In that moment, as I saw him laughing carelessly beside her, I felt a sense of relief beyond anger and sadness. Ben had always been thoughtless, which I found endearing. But I didn't realize he was so shallow and foolish. Really, it's good. I'm glad I found out what kind of man he is before marrying him. I'll gift wrap him for you, Nicole. She's just making excuses. It can't be helped, she's over 30. The two of them, heads close together, were laughing as if they were in their own world of delusion. Ben seemed like a completely different person to me now. Goodbye. Huh, you're leaving already? I was about to tell you how much we love each other. Despite Nicole's condescending voice following me, I held back my tears and ignored her. Then I left the house. I didn't want to see my sister's face anymore. I moved as planned to the rental apartment where I was supposed to live with Ben. Ironically, choosing a cheaper, albeit smaller place. Because we were talking about buying a house once we had children. Worked out since the rent wasn't too much for me alone. A few days later, I visited Ben's workplace. Hello, Tracy. Ben's off today, though. I know. I came because it's his day off. What? His boss was taken aback, apparently still unaware of the situation. Well, how should I say this? That's hard to believe? Is it really true? Yes, unfortunately. My sister can do such things without a problem. I didn't think he'd switch sides though. While saying this, I felt a lump in my throat. No good, I can't cry and be a nuisance here. Well, then I must be going. I'm sorry to have bothered you, but please forget about the wedding. Tracy. Yes? You've done nothing wrong. I'm on your side. What? A month later, Nicole called me. Hi, Tracy? Finally you picked up. How are you? As if I could be fine. But showing her I was down would only make her happy. I'm fine, what's up? Listen, I have some news. I'm marrying a guy with an annual income of $100,000. Are you jealous? Sorry. She laughed loudly over the phone while saying sorry. What, you're getting married? I was a bit surprised. I understood why she stole Ben since he was handsome and my fiancé. But choosing him as a marriage partner, despite having other elite lovers. Huh? What did she just say? Wait, Nicole, are you really marrying Ben? Her voice sounded pleased as she responded to my shaken tone. Of course. You didn't think I'd marry so soon? You thought you could win him back? Impossible, the $100,000 guy is already mine. Indeed, it wasn't a misunderstanding. I suddenly found the situation amusing. But Nicole, you were also dating that businessman, weren't you? You said before that if you were to marry, it would be an elite. You seem desperate to tear us apart, but it's useless. Businessmen are fine, but they don't have strong impressions in comparison to doctors. Besides, Ben is handsome. Is that so? Jealous? But make sure you come to the wedding. I think you'll feel miserable, but as family, you have to attend. Besides, both Dad and Mom are kinda mad, so if you attend, I think they'll forgive me. Nicole piled on her tactless words joyfully. She wanted to flaunt that she was marrying my former fiancé, always aiming to be superior. Unfortunately, she wouldn't get her wish. I responded with a cheerful voice. Okay, got it. Congratulations on marrying a husband who takes home $1,500 a month. What? Nicole let out a ridiculous noise over the phone. What are you talking about? Who's taking home $1,500? That would be your marriage partner. No way. Come on, Tracy. I know you're upset, but that lie won't fly. It's not a lie. During your visit to greet, I heard it before I entered the living room. Mom saying it's like they're both doctors. And by the way, I also overheard the conversation about $100,000 and whatever before that. Tough luck. Tough luck for you, Nicole. It's you who's mistaken. What? I'm the one with an annual income of $100,000. Huh? You know I'm a doctor, right? Specifically, a surgeon. So, you're both doctors, right? I earn $100,000 as a 31-year-old surgeon. So what? He's still 27. Not there yet? That will just keep increasing and soon surpass $100,000. Do you think so? There are various types of doctors, you know. Huh? A doctor is a doctor. What a simpleton. Well, he's a doctor too, but of animals. Huh? Animals? Nicole's voice sounded stilted over the phone. She must be wide-eyed on the other end. Not exactly a doctor, though. Huh, what? What do you mean? Oh, my break is over, so I'm hanging up. Don't call me again. Oh, wait a moment. I abruptly hung up the phone. That night, Nicole summoned me. I didn't want to be involved anymore, but I decided to see this through to the end. Of course, I consulted that person beforehand. I'm sorry for the sudden trouble today, Sean. No worries, we're closed now. The person smiling gently at me was the director of the hospital where we were gathered. Nicole, this is where Ben works. Oh, what's this? Suddenly dragging her to where I work. Nicole looked around the hospital curiously. Huh? This place is? Yes. Our dog comes here whenever there's something wrong. You never really cares, so you probably haven't been here much. What? After finding out Ben works here, we got closer. Our parents and the former director have had a long association. What? Wait, Ben, what's this about? Huh? What's wrong? He looked bewildered. You really work here? You earn $100,000 a year, right? Not at a university hospital? Huh? What are you talking about, Nicole? That's Tracy. What? Nicole's eyes widened as she looked at me, and I gave her a big smile. See, just like I said. I'm not lying. No way, you tricked me. I didn't trick you. I mean, I didn't say anything. You eavesdropped on a conversation with Mom and misunderstood, right? What? Ben looked puzzled, and Nicole was at a loss for words. But, he's still a doctor for animals. And vets make good money, right? This hospital has been renovated to be bigger and nicer. He'll be making $100,000 soon, right? Unfortunately, Ben isn't even a vet. What? Nicole's eyes widened at the director's words. He's not a vet, but an animal nurse, so his income is even lower. What? A nurse? For animals? Yes, it's a respectable job. I had no intention of defending Ben, but I said it. So, really, does he only take home $1,500? Yeah, that's about what he earns now. The director answered nonchalantly. Oh my. But wait. Ben, you have a golden retriever, right? I know you met my sister while walking it. What does that have to do with anything? That's a high-class breed, a rich person's dog. That means his family must be wealthy, right? Was that ever a rule? Desperate and prejudiced, my sister was grasping at straws, which made me laugh. Wow, Nicole, you remember such stories well. I don't know if golden retrievers are rich people's dogs, but that dog isn't Ben's. What? The director nodded too. Well, that dog belongs to a regular customer. They had to go back home suddenly, so they asked us to keep it for 3 days. Ben just took it for walks during that time. No, that's not true. Well, you're rich, right? I can tell. Then Ben must be too. As I'm saying, the director is a vet and Ben is an animal nurse. And this place, along with other animal hospitals and grooming salons, is managed by you as well, right? Well, I'm only in charge here, and the management is mainly by my father. What? As Nicole turned pale, Ben looked at her, puzzled. What's going on, Nicole? Suddenly demanding to see where I work, and even calling Tracy over. What's this about? It's my line. I decided to marry you because I thought you were a doctor. If I had known, I wouldn't have dumped the businessman. Huh? What businessman? You fell for me at first sight and attacked me furiously. Even though it was hard to betray your sister. That was all an act. What? I couldn't stand to see you marry my sister since you're good-looking. And I thought you were a doctor, so I took you from her. What? You mean your goal was to take me from Tracy? You don't love me? I do love you, your face and body. If you were a doctor earning $100,000, I'd love everything about you. Don't mess with me. The unapologetic Nicole and Ben began a heated argument. Enough already. Yikes. Scolded by the director, both of them shrank back. If you're done, please leave. But before you do, both of you should apologize to Tracy. What? Why? Seriously, Tracy is also to blame. If your sister was such a wicked woman, you should have told me. Switching from me so easily, Ben started saying unbelievable things. What do you mean by wicked woman? I seduced you and you fell for it right away. Nicole was furious, her face turning bright red. Her cute face now looked like a demon's. As I was thinking about how one's inner nature reflects on their face as they age. The director spoke in a low voice. Ben. Yes? I'm disappointed to find out you're this kind of person. Betraying your fiancé and switching to her sister. Well. Besides, you asked me to give a speech at the wedding. Yet you hid the fact that your engagement with Tracy was called off. Well, that's. I always say, the most important thing in our job of helping animals is compassion. And among those involved in caring for animal lives, trust among staff is essential. You lack both. Eek. Your employment contract is up at the end of this month. Don't expect a renewal. What? Wait, please. Oh my. Even at $1,500, that's unbelievable, but unemployed. While Ben was panicking, Nicole muttered, looking stunned. I hate this. I don't need a man like this anymore. I'm giving him back to you, Tracy. No, thank you. Nicole, wait. It's your fault to begin with. Don't touch me, ew. What did you say? I'm not marrying you. Wait. They left in a flurry of shouts. Later, Ben was forced to quit the animal hospital. Known to the old staff and reception ladies as our acquaintance. He was given the cold shoulder. It was an unbearable situation, and he left before his contract ended. His bad reputation spread through the animal hospital network, making re-employment difficult, and he struggled in unemployment. He approached me for a reunion, but I politely declined with a smile. Even though he begged, my heart did not waver, and I was happy about that. As for Nicole, she thought if Ben was no good, she could just find another. believing any number of good men would come her way. However, that was not to be. After she chose Ben and bragged, "Sorry, I snagged a high-income doctor. I'll date you again when he makes $200,000. The men who learned of her true nature spread the word. Already conspicuous because of her beauty, the rumor spread quickly in the party and mixer circles. Soon, even her usual acquaintances shunned her, and her popularity swiftly declined. No one wants to be with such a cute woman like me. It's all because of you." Her voicemails kept coming, but I promptly deleted them all. Despite being kicked out for stealing my fiancé, she even tried to find sympathy at home. She brought it upon herself, so I just ignored her. My usually gentle mother said sternly, "When she truly gets angry, she is fearsome." Spoiled her whole life, Nicole couldn't bear being scorned and left her job for the nightlife. 2 years have passed since then, and I am living peacefully, freed from Nicole's curse. Work is still busy, but seeing patients recover and smile with gratitude is rewarding. Now, by my side, is the serene partner, Director Sean, from that animal hospital. At that time, I didn't realize why he was so dedicatedly supportive and angry on my behalf, as I was overwhelmed and just grateful. It was about half a year later when he opened up. "I've had feelings for you for a while. When I learned you were Ben's girlfriend, it was complicated. But as long as you were happy, that was enough. However, seeing you in pain after what happened, I wanted to be the one to make you happy. I'd had enough of love and marriage after such a harsh experience, but I could trust this man. His sincerity and kindness toward animals also played a big part. Our relationship progressed smoothly, and even my parents were happy about it. Tracy, there's something I want to discuss." "What is it?" "How about we live together, with marriage in mind?" "What?" "Yeah, we're both busy, and sometimes we have to perform surgeries unexpectedly. If we live together, we can at least see each other every day." As he spoke with a flushed face, I knew I wanted to cherish him deeply. "Yes." "What?" "I can be myself with you. Please stay with me forever," I said with a smile, and he looked surprised for a moment before hugging me tightly. In his arms, I vowed to sincerely engage with the important person in front of me and my patients from now on.
That day, Jason and I were having a barbecue in the garden with our daughter and her husband. It's sunny and the scent of the meat cooking outside is filling the air.
"Ah, it looks like we're running out of beer. Susan, could you add some from the storage to the fridge?"
Jason, my husband, said this to me. "Got it. Is 4 or 5 bottles okay?" "Hey, Brian, can you help Mom too? Chill all the beer we have." Hillary, our daughter, also asked her husband, Brian. Brian, with a smile, agreed,
"Of course,"
and followed me to the shed at the back of the garden. The shed was bought in bulk. As I tried to lift a cardboard box from the back of the dimly lit shed, Brian suddenly pressed down on my back and tried to make me sit on the ground, now only stacked with a few boxes of beer we had. I reflexively twisted my neck and peered into Brian's face. Seeing his desperate expression unlike his usual demeanor, I instantly felt a fear that I might be attacked. "What are you doing?" I tried to scream in surprise, but Brian, looking a bit panicked, whispered,
"Sorry, just bear with me for a moment."
"What?"
"There's something I really need to check."
Brian lost his usual gentle smile and looked at me with a serious gaze. Then together we witnessed an unbelievable scene. My name is Susan. The weather was pleasantly nice in early spring. My husband had passed away after a short illness and had gone to heaven. Since losing my husband, my daughter Hillary and I had been living a modest life together, just the two of us. This life of just mother and daughter continued for several years, and through a friend I met a man named Jason. Jason was the same age as my late husband and even slightly resembled him in stature. Initially, we were just good friends, but gradually Jason and I started to become aware of each other. However, as I walked beside Jason and caught myself laughing, I couldn't help but feel incredibly guilty.
No need to rush. I can wait forever.
Jason said this with a gentle smile as he walked a bit ahead of me. Although I was attracted to his kindness, I couldn't stop thinking about my late husband. It's been 7 years since my husband passed away. I caught up with his relatives at a family event and ended up taking care of his grave. My husband's sister gently placed her hand on my shoulder. She didn't look me in the eyes, but she smiled warmly and said,
"Thank you for everything so far."
I tried to hide my tears, thinking that I might never visit my husband's grave again. A few months later, I decided to marry Jason. We moved to a new house and decided to start anew, discarding all my clothes and furniture. I felt that keeping any mementos of my previous husband would hurt Jason. Initially, Hillary was hesitant about the marriage, but gradually she became friendly with Jason. Before the remarriage, Jason and Hillary had spent time together as friends, so they adapted quickly. Hillary had just turned 15. During this sensitive period, she started wearing slightly heavy makeup and going out more, soon turning to Jason when she wanted extra pocket money. Originally, life with just the two of us hadn't been affluent, and I couldn't always buy Hillary the things she wanted. Unlike me, who was strict about money, Jason was lenient. Without asking for details, if she mentioned going out with friends, he would immediately pull out his wallet and give her money. When I later scolded Jason for this, he looked troubled and said,
"Sorry, but it seems like money is the only way I can get along with Hillary right now."
Jason's being all sweet to Hillary, like she's royalty. It makes me feel happy too. Jason was trying hard to love both Hillary and me. I had kept my last memento of my previous husband, the wedding ring, tucked away in the back of my closet, and sometimes I would take it out and look at it. But something about that felt wrong, so I wrote a simple letter and sent it to my late husband's parents. "I'm sorry, but I want to move forward." Am I allowed to be happy? I'm not sure, but I truly wish to be happy. Eventually, Hillary became very close to Jason, always sticking by his side. While this made me happy, it also left me a bit concerned. "Hey, Dad, I really want this new bag, but I'm a little short on pocket money. What should I do?"
"Which one? What kind of bag is it?"
Hillary showed the screen of her smartphone to Jason, who looked pleased as he peeked at it. Glancing at the screen, I recognized a famous brand's bag. As Hillary scrolled with her fingertips to show the price, Jason touched the back of his head, looking slightly troubled.
It's quite expensive. But well, okay. It's what Hillary wants."
"Really? Yay! Thank you, Dad." Hillary hugged him and Jason smiled, his nose stretched in pleasure. Since marrying Jason, I felt that Hillary's sense of money has become distorted. Maybe it was a backlash from the frugal life we had led together until then, but she increasingly demanded things only from Jason, who would buy anything with a smile. "Hillary, don't just waste money all the time." "It's okay. I won't ask Mom anyway, right, Dad?" Hillary and Jason exchanged looks and laughed joyously. "You know, I'm going to marry someone handsome and kind like Dad in the future." At her words, Jason scrunched up his face even more as he smiled broadly. Satisfied with her promise, Hillary returned to her room to study. After graduating from high school, Hillary went to go to nursing school and had started studying seriously. To avoid disturbing her, we didn't turn on the TV at home, and I kept a small radio in the kitchen, letting it play continuously. Our lives were very happy. So happy, I might sometimes forget the fact that my previous husband had passed away. But sometimes, when the radio played music from my youth, I remembered. The melody and the lyrics would grip my heart, threatening to bring tears to my eyes.
"Don't look like you're about to cry. It's just a bag."
Jason says something completely off topic, and I just smiled wryly. I took a moment and admonished myself that I should not keep giving money to Hillary just because she asked. This was also because Jason had started business when he was young and was accounting some of the payments as business expenses. It wasn't exactly commendable, and it could impact the company's financial situation. So even though I strongly cautioned him, Jason continued to ignore my advice. Really, you're too lenient. As these days continued, Hillary successfully entered nursing school and started living on her own after graduation. Hillary was working hard as a nurse. When she was 25, she began dating a man her age named Brian, and they decided to marry. When I first met Brian, whom she had invited home, I tried to hide my surprise. Hillary had always declared, "I'll marry a handsome man." However, her fiancé, Brian, was a nice young man, but not the universally appealing handsome type. Brian, with a gentle smile and a soft appearance, was, I heard, the son of a wealthy family and dressed in well-bred clothing. After getting married, they frequently visited us, and Brian was always kind to Jason and me, reassuring me deeply that my daughter had married a good man. One day, at Jason's suggestion, we decided to have a barbecue in our garden. The weather was clear, and a few skylarks were singing in the piercingly blue sky. Jason, who had been enthusiastic about preparing since early morning, grilled the meat with practiced hands and chatted happily with Hillary. Brian was looking around for the singing skylarks in the sky, but eventually gave up and poured a drink into a cup.
It looks like we're running out of beer. Susan, could you add some from the storage to the fridge?
Got it. Is 4 or 5 bottles okay?
Hey, Brian, can you help Mom too? Chill all the beer we have.
Brian, with a smile, agreed. Of course, and followed me to the shed at the back of the garden. The shed was relatively new, now only stacked with a few boxes of beer we had bought in bulk. As I tried to lift a cardboard box from the back of the dimly lit shed, Brian suddenly pressed down on my back and tried to make me sit on the ground. What? What are you doing? I tried to scream in surprise, but Brian, looking a bit panicked, whispered,
Sorry, just bear with me for a moment.
What?
There's something I really need to check.
Before I could reply, asking what he needed to check, he peeked his face out of the shed door and surveyed the outside. The weather was fine, and the garden's green lawn was glaringly reflective. Our figures in the dim shed were probably not visible to Jason or Hillary. After a while, watching Jason and Hillary from afar, Hillary leaned close to Jason's arm. Hillary rubbed her face against Jason's upper arm and laughed joyously. Their voices were faint but audible. The echo of the skylarks singing in the sky blurred their voices in the shed. Brian watched them intently with a serious look. Could it be? Brian was jealous of Hillary and Jason getting along? I inadvertently laughed, and he seemed to notice, pointing and saying,
Look!
Hillary looked around several times and then wrapped her arms around Jason. Jason looked a bit flustered, but after scanning the surroundings, like Hillary, he happily accepted her. Their interaction seemed more than just parental. The sound of the skylarks ceased. In the stillness, without wind or insect sounds, Jason and Hillary's voices, though faint, reached my ears distinctly.
Brian, he has no clue. It's funny, isn't it?
Well, you could say the same about Susan. Normally, you wouldn't imagine it.
But this kind of relationship is exciting and fun, isn't it?
I was stunned listening to their conversation. I couldn't grasp what was happening. Hillary took a transparent bag with a powdery substance out of her pocket and lightly mixed it into the glasses Brian and I had been drinking from. Did she put something in Brian's and my glasses?
That's probably sleeping pills. She had been visiting a psychiatrist secretly.
Sleeping pills? Visiting a psychiatrist secretly from Brian? I was overwhelmed by the confusion, but the fact that she had put sleeping pills in our drinks was something I had to deal with.
We should leave here. It would be strange to stay longer, but don't use that glass.
Afterwards, Brian and I returned to Hillary and Jason, pretending we knew nothing. Hillary looked a bit unnatural, glancing at my glass several times. She was trying to make me drink some strange drug. Just that fact alone was a significant shock to me, and I felt betrayed by the daughter I had raised, causing me to feel dizzy. Sorry, maybe I've been out in the sun too much. I'll go rest inside for a bit.
What? Okay, I'll clean up then. You should rest.
Lying on the bed in the room, I stared blankly at the ceiling. Why did they put sleeping pills in the drink? And that distance between Jason and Hillary seems a bit strange. In my head, the thought that maybe clashed with the belief that it couldn't be possible, and my headache got worse. After lying down for a while, I fell asleep. As evening approached and I got up to go outside, the cleanup was already finished. It seemed that Hillary and Brian were about to leave, and when Brian noticed me, he looked like he wanted to say something. Then his gaze wandered slowly, and he remained silent.
Are you feeling better now?
After Hillary and Brian left, Jason looked after me as usual. His words, his voice, everything sounded like a lie, and I forced a strained smile.
You still seem a bit unwell. Should I make something for dinner?
As he rolled up his sleeves and rummaged through the refrigerator, I remember there was half of the meat we bought yesterday left. This thought crossed my mind just as the image of someone putting sleeping pills in my glass resurfaced. I forcefully pushed Jason aside and said, "I'll cook." Then I quickly prepared a simple meal. I really don't feel like eating anything made by Jason right now. For several days, I hesitated to touch any of the food or drinking water stored in the house. It might have been tampered with some kind of drug. As I started thinking about it, suspicions of bugging or secret filming also came to mind, and living in my own home began to feel suffocating. One day I received a message from Brian on my smartphone. Apparently, Brian had discussed the suspicion about the sleeping pills with his parents. Brian's parents were concerned about me and offered to hide me temporarily. For me as well, living with Jason is driving me crazy. I'm very grateful for the offer.
It's a relative's villa, and there are no plans to use it for a while, so you're welcome to stay as long as you like. Also, I would like to have a discussion with my parents involved, if that's okay.
Brian's voice was somber over the phone. It would be. His wife might be cheating with another man, and that man might be... No, I don't want to think about anything now. Later, I lied to Jason. A friend invited me to a spa. I've had a headache since the barbecue, and under the guise of resting, a friend invited me.
A spa, huh? That's nice. Take it easy. Maybe I'll invite Hillary over and have dinner at home.
Jason said it naturally, without a hint of guilt, and I felt a chill of disgust. Later, I headed to the address Brian gave me and visited the relative's villa. Brian picked me up at the station after I changed trains.
I'm sorry you had to come all this way,
he said, truly apologetic. Even though he had gone out of his way to arrange a hiding place for me, I felt a surge of emotion at Brian's kindness. The area seemed to be lined with villas with beautiful, seemingly uninhabited houses scattered sparsely. The villa was surrounded by many trees. At the front door, Brian's parents were waiting to greet me. It was only the third time I had met Brian's parents, at the engagement and the wedding, and now. I had heard from Hillary that they were quite wealthy, so I felt a bit intimidated and thanked them for sheltering me. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry to rush this, but let's proceed with our discussion inside.
Once inside the villa, a discussion began immediately with Brian and his parents involved. Apparently, Brian had already talked about the fact that sleeping pills had been added. He also explained how Hillary's spending had become extravagantly more than Brian's salary since they got married. It was a bit painful to hear since she's my daughter.
The source of the money Hillary is using is unclear, so we want to resolve that as well. My parents will propose a donation to Jason's business. Maybe we should let her believe it for a while?
The phrase, "let her believe it for a while," caught my attention. Let her believe? What will that reveal? What lies ahead of what I am about to do now? What kind of conclusion is there? Realizing my hesitation, Brian stared into my eyes and smiled when our eyes met.
Maybe we're just worrying over nothing. Why not be a little mischievous to ensure you can live peacefully again?
I couldn't help but laugh at Brian's words. Worrying over nothing. Surely, or rather, definitely not. We are only trying to clarify what is almost certainly the answer. After a few days of calming down in the villa Brian lent me, I felt embarrassed to stay there forever and decided to return home. A few weeks later, Brian's parents officially informed Jason's company that they would provide funds in the form of a donation. Being wealthy, their proposal was readily trusted, and Jason and Hillary rejoiced without even checking the specific date for the funding. I quietly observed the happy couple. Having returned home, spending time inside became a bit painful, and I recently started making walks a daily routine. There's a wheat field right in front of the house with green wheat of the same height spreading all over. As I walked along a lightly trafficked road paved with asphalt, I looked up at the larks flying far away. Life after the funding proposal felt like an indulgence. Jason, believing he has secured the funds, bought a luxury car under the pretext of a company car. As for Hillary, she repeatedly splurged on aesthetics and nails. Even if the savings ran out, the funds would eventually come. Jason's naive calculations seemed transparent. One day, both families held a dinner meeting to discuss the funding. Our couple, Hillary and her husband, and Brian's parents met at our house. Jason thanked deeply and repeatedly to Brian's parents, almost ingratiatingly.
I really can't thank Brian enough. Hillary always says she's happy to have married such a wonderful person.
Jason was ingratiating himself with Brian's parents, but they set documents on the table without a hint of a smile, thinking it was about the donation. Jason said happily,
"Thank you."
But as he read the contents, his face turned pale.
"When we looked into your company as part of the funding, we uncovered some shocking facts."
Jason, sweating profusely, read through the contents of the documents. The documents mainly contained two things: evidence that Jason and Hillary had an affair and a tax investigation regarding expenses that had been accounted for as company costs. The evidence that his own daughter was involved with her husband made me want to cover my face. The expenses for the jewelry and aesthetic treatments Hillary had asked Jason to buy had all been falsely declared as company expenses, and additional taxes were being levied.
"Under these circumstances, we cannot proceed with funding such a company." "What? At this point?"
Jason, visibly shaken, spilled the coffee in front of him. Hillary quickly stood up with trembling hands to wipe the coffee.
"Hillary, I'm divorcing you and will demand a proper settlement."
What? What do you mean by settlement?
"You were unfaithful. It's only natural. And Susan..."
Saying that, Brian looked at me. Jason, still staring at the documents, turned his fearful eyes to me. "I will also divorce Jason and seek a settlement."
"What are you talking about? How can this be?"
Jason stammered, trembling as he dropped the documents to the floor. Hillary, also frightened, moved closer to Jason and pointed at Brian with trembling lips.
"It's not true. The one who was unfaithful is Brian. It was Brian and my mother."
Until the very end, Hillary continued to make senseless excuses and blame others. Jason and Hillary kept making desperate excuses, but with solid evidence, there was no escaping the truth. Eventually, as if giving up, Jason's shoulders slumped, and he quietly began to speak. Jason admitted he had become involved with Hillary, but realized there was no love in their relationship. Initially, he had rejected Hillary's advances, which were purely motivated by money. But as Hillary became more feminine and I aged, losing my allure, he made his decision.
"I am a man, after all. We're not related by blood. I couldn't help it."
It was Hillary who had suggested putting sleeping pills in the drinks on the day of the barbecue. After drugging Brian and me, their plan was to undress us, put us in the same bed, take photos of the scene, and demand a settlement. What a shallow thinking. Beyond contempt, I looked at them with cold eyes.
"I'm truly sorry. Please forgive me, I beg you."
"I'm really sorry too. I don't want to break up with Brian."
I remained silent, just staring at the two as they continued to apologize. I was at a loss for words. How could I possibly forgive them? There's no way I could forgive. As they continued in silence, Hillary, impatient, looked up and grabbed Jason's sleeve, pulling it forcefully.
"This is your fault. What are we going to do about my credit card payment next week?"
"What? Why are you shopping on your own? I even used a loan because I lost money at casinos, and I'm out of money too. Seriously, what are we going to do?"
This must be what they call a total disaster. Hillary continued her aggressive behavior, pulling Jason's hair and clothes, while Jason shouted in an attempt to stop her. Their shouting could surely be heard by the neighbors. If it became known that they had an incestuous relationship, living in this neighborhood with normal nerves would be impossible. That would surely be the same for me. As I thought about no longer being able to see the scenery outside the window, I felt a slight sadness. Later, Hillary and Brian divorced and moved far away. Hillary, tainted by the nightlife, struggled with life, drowning in alcohol and accumulating debt. Jason, after paying a hefty settlement, was pursued by debt collectors, and his company went bankrupt. He disappeared almost like a fugitive and is now living hidden as a homeless person. Brian, after divorcing Hillary, used his experience to find a better relationship. I received a settlement from Jason. Despite his company going bankrupt and being pursued by debt collectors, how he managed to prepare a large sum for the settlement is unclear, but he showed his responsibility in the end. After divorcing Jason and selling our home, I decided to return to my parents' house. On the plane back home, I thought about many things. I had lost a husband to illness, remarried, and then divorced again, betrayed even by my own daughter. What face should I wear to meet my parents now? Around my parents' home, there are many wheat fields. Dragging a large suitcase, I continued walking on the long asphalt road. The air was humid. The season was on the cusp of early summer. When I returned home, my elderly parents didn't ask for any details and just accepted me. Why don't my old parents ask me anything? Are they pitying me? Yet they didn't treat me like a delicate issue, but naturally accepted me. Looking at the tranquil countryside, I knew I had to reevaluate my life. Thanks to my father's recommendation, I managed to find a job at the local agricultural cooperative and build a foundation for my life. Since then, I've built a good relationship with Brian's parents. We meet rarely, but when they are nearby, we sometimes have dinner together. It was a sudden event in the spring, several years after I returned home. On the desk, there was the wedding ring I had received from my late husband. I was a bit shaken and held the ring in my palm, staring at it. As I stood dumbfounded, my mother came from the kitchen with a bent back to wipe the table.
It's been quite a while. His parents came over. They said they really want you to have this.
I stood there speechless. Outside the house was a wheat field. In the clear blue sky beyond, a lark continued to claim, "I am here." Tears fell, and I put my bag over my shoulder, mounted my bicycle, and rode off. I continued riding through the empty wheat field, sweating on my forehead. What should I do from now on? I'm not sure what's ahead, but I'll just keep going. I'll save my worries for later, after I've lived my best.
Why are you here? Despite our completely cold marriage, my husband Steve said he wanted to celebrate my birthday at a fancy restaurant. I suspected he was up to something, and indeed, his mistress was also waiting at the restaurant. I wanted to celebrate your birthday too. This is a birthday present from both me and your husband. The present was a divorce paper. What a tasteless surprise. But in return, I handed something over that would bring Steve and his mistress down. Instead, I present this to you. My final gift to you. Seeing this, the two of them ended up pleading for forgiveness in a pitiful manner. My name is Alyssa. I used to work as an office worker at a corporation, but due to Steve's wishes, I am now a full-time housewife. Steve and I got to know each other as we started at the same company and shared common interests. He was good at talking and sweet-talking. I fell for him and actively pursued a relationship, which led to marriage. Vulnerable to my feelings for him, I tended to comply with his demands from the beginning of our relationship, thinking it would keep our relationship harmonious. Steve often made aggressive demands, taking advantage of my attitude. Highly regarded at his company and on a career track, Steve focused on his work and insisted that I quit my job to become a housewife after we married. But I like my current job, and I've just been entrusted with a project. No matter how hard a woman like Alyssa tries, she can't outperform me, right? It's better for you to support me by taking care of the home now. I thought, is that so? Although I still wanted to continue working, I convinced myself that maybe Steve was right, and ultimately quit my job when we got married. Even after marriage, Steve continued to assert his beliefs. Hey, I was thinking of visiting my parents next holiday. Steve, maybe you could. You know I hate such bothersome stuff. I'm tired from work, so I want time for myself on holidays. You should just go alone since they are your parents. Steve never met my parents again after our wedding greetings and the ceremony. While I occasionally visited my parents, Steve never accompanied me. I rationalized that he was just not good at handling personal relationships. But it still saddened me to see my beloved parents treated dismissively. Our marriage continued like this for 10 years. How was your day? I was just making your favorite dish. I greeted Steve cheerily as he returned from work. However, upon seeing my face, he sighed annoyedly. Ah. I'm tired of that. It feels like you're holding it over me. I don't need dinner today. I just came home to sleep, and I have to get up early tomorrow, so leave me alone. He coldly stated and quickly retreated to his room, leaving me staring miserably at his back. I thought, today too, he didn't eat it. Whether it's because he's busy with work or not. Steve often comes home late these days. And I try to make him comfortable at home by cooking his favorite foods daily. However, Steve usually eats out, rarely having the meals I prepare. Still, as a housewife, I continued to cook and waited for his return. I thought, I wonder when we started drifting apart like this. Tears welled up in my eyes as I wrapped the uneaten food and placed it in the refrigerator. Initially, our marriage was going well, but as Steve rose to a managerial position, the stress seemed to increase, and he became less communicative at home. I kept trying to talk to him, but he only got more irritable, making all my efforts futile. I hoped time would heal things, but as days passed, the gap between us deepened. I kept telling myself that his aggression was due to his busy schedule. All I could do was to wait quietly at home, not provoking Steve's temper. However, an incident that trampled on my feelings happened one day. It all started when Steve came home and was in the shower, and our home phone rang. Hello? Hello, is this the director's home? It seems he left his smartphone at the office. The caller sounded like a young woman. Oh, well, thank you for calling. He's currently in the shower, but I'll let him know once he's out. Is that so? Well, then I'll bring it over. I know where he lives. No, that won't be necessary. I'll have him pick it up later, please don't worry. I have time, so it's okay. I'll head over now. Despite being pushy, she ended up bringing Steve's smartphone. Steve, your colleague said she's bringing over a smartphone you forgot. It was a young woman's voice. So, I see. Okay. I told this to Steve as he got out of the shower, and he visibly looked uneasy. About an hour after the call, our doorbell rang. When I answered, I heard the voice of the woman from the phone. I opened the door, and there stood a woman in her early 20s. Nice to meet you. Are you the wife? Is Steve here? With a look that men might like, miniskirt and heavy makeup, she spoke in a coquettish tone as she peeked into our house. I intuitively disliked her vibe. Megan, sorry to trouble you. Steve passed by me to stand in front of the woman he called Megan, exchanging casual conversation as he took the smartphone. However, their overly friendly demeanor made me feel uncomfortable. Sorry for the late hour, I'll be leaving now. See you, Steve. With that, she left. The door slammed shut, leaving only the strong scent of her branded perfume behind. You seem to get along well with your colleague. What's with that all of a sudden? Megan is just a colleague. Yet Megan calls you Steve so casually, despite being addressed as director over the phone. The woman had deliberately called him Steve in my hearing when she visited. She's just very friendly. She calls everyone by their first names, not just me. Friendly, huh? Ah, so that's why she knew our house. Even though she's never been invited to a boss's home. She came without hesitation. She must have a good memory. What are you trying to say? My probing words finally made my husband Steve snap. I normally don't confront him like this. But I had a woman's intuition that he might have a mistress. I hadn't investigated her yet, but I was sure that Megan from earlier was the one. So I pressed the issue with passion. You always said you were late from work, but could there be another reason? You might think you've kept it hidden from me, but it's obvious. The times when Steve was busy at work and became cold towards me matched up. It could only mean one thing: infidelity. Why don't you just admit it? Shut up, it was just a fling. So, you admit to cheating? I was stressed from work, and when she invited me, I just lost it. It was just dinner, nothing physical. That doesn't count as cheating, does it? Steve finally admitted to cheating after my persistent questioning. But he insisted that it wasn't a physical relationship. However, judging by their demeanor, it couldn't have been just platonic. But at the moment, I had no evidence to pursue it further. So what if I cheated? What are you going to do about it? Divorce? There's no way you, a housewife with a career gap, can find a job if you leave me. You'd struggle financially without me. Steve sneered at me, ignoring his own actions. As he said, I hadn't worked for 10 years. It would likely be tough to find a job if I tried. Knowing this, Steve was confident that I wouldn't dare file for divorce even if he cheated. You rely on me for support, and you have the nerve. There's no reason for you to bash me just because I talked to a younger girl. I've had enough. I ended the conversation, disgusted by Steve's lack of apology. Maybe you're jealous of a beautiful young woman. I don't know, but a housewife should just quietly obey me. Steve sneered and spat out those words before returning to the living room. I had tried to ignore it to protect my own feelings. But it was clear he was looking down on me. There was no trust left between us. Despite how much I had loved him, this incident cooled my feelings rapidly. I thought, I won't let him get away with this. I'll make sure he apologizes. Secretly, I vowed to take revenge on my husband, Steve. I thought it was time to use a power that Steve didn't know I had. After that, I continued on with my daily routines superficially. Steve's homecomings remained unapologetically late. And the only thing I changed was stopping to cook meals for him. Once when he came home and asked where's dinner, I told him I had no interest in cooking for someone whose return time was unpredictable. He angrily declared he'd never eat my cooking again. As our marriage continued to grow colder, one day, as my birthday approached, Steve surprisingly initiated a conversation. Alyssa, I've made a reservation for your birthday at a restaurant. It had been years since he'd celebrated my birthday. Wondering what sudden change of wind had prompted this, I didn't press further but thanked him, looking forward to it. I wasn't sure what he was planning. However, from his attitude and demeanor, it was clear he wasn't genuinely interested in celebrating my birthday. I decided it might be wise to prepare something in advance. I planned to deliver a major blow to both Steve and his mistress Megan. On my birthday, Steve truly had made a reservation at the restaurant. It was a high-end establishment often featured in magazines. We were led inside by the staff, and Steve and I headed to our table. However, an unbelievable person was already sitting there. Why are you here? Oh, ma'am, long time no see. I wanted to celebrate your birthday too, I asked Steve. Just like when she had visited our home. There she was with her revealing outfit and heavy makeup. It was Steve's mistress, Megan. What is this about? I questioned Steve, who was sitting next to me. But he feigned ignorance and didn't answer. Oh, come on, sit down, you'll understand everything once you see this, Megan said, thrusting a piece of paper in front of me. This is happy birthday from me and Steve. It was a divorce form, already signed in the husband's section by Steve. I'm tired of our life together. I want a divorce. What a tasteless surprise. You went through the trouble of reserving a restaurant. You could have just handed me the divorce papers normally. But you chose to mock me to the end, didn't you? Oh, come on, we just wanted to have a nice meal and then part ways cleanly. Megan smirked malevolently, watching my reaction. This distasteful setup was likely her idea. It's like a little joke, isn't it? Were you that shocked? Did you really think I'd celebrate your birthday for real? I'm not so naive. I suspected you were up to something. But I didn't expect such an incomprehensible surprise. Oh, are you making excuses now? That's right, I lost. I'll give you the boring man who enjoys ridiculing others with his mistress. I'll submit this myself. I picked up the divorce form from the table. Instead, I'm giving you this as a present. My final gift to you, read it carefully. I placed a letter I had prepared in advance on the table and turned to leave the restaurant. Behind me, I could hear their contemptuous laughter. Without taking my meal, I left the restaurant, ignoring the puzzled waiter. With the divorce form in hand, I quickly headed to a specific place. I knew that divorce forms could be submitted 24 hours a day. Fortunately, the office was nearby. I started walking to submit the divorce form immediately. I wanted to sever ties with that man as soon as possible. As I thought, the office was still open. Finally, I would be free from that man. As I was about to enter, I heard someone loudly calling my name. Hey! Alyssa! Wait, please wait. At the entrance of the office, Steve, having noticed me, called out to stop me. He must have rushed here because he was panting heavily. Megan, his mistress, was also there. Her hair a mess compared to how it looked at the restaurant. Likely because she too had run after me. What do you want? I knew they had chased after me because of the letter I had left. But I asked innocently, pretending not to understand. The divorce was a joke. The affair, all of it, was just a story to get your attention. It was a surprise, you know? We've been in a rut, haven't we? What a desperate excuse. It's true. I was just helping the director with a surprise. Ignoring their frantic explanations, I continued towards the entrance of the city office. They were only changing their tune because they had read that letter. In the letter, I had revealed that the president of a major company crucial to Steve's employer was actually my father. Steve knew that my father ran a company. But because he had not met him since our wedding, and our family name was common, he never realized that the president of the client company was my dad. Knowing the truth, Steve must have turned pale because with my father's influence, firing both of them would be easy. We can still fix this. I want you to come back. Please, I'm begging you. Steve was on his knees in front of the busy city office, not caring who saw. Megan, too, knelt down beside him. Clearly, they were afraid of losing their jobs. Oh, it's too late for that. Sorry to have you make such a pathetic show, but I've already filed the divorce papers. You were about to go into the office building. Stop lying. Sorry to have raised your hopes, but I actually left my bag at the counter. I was just going back to get it. We're already strangers. With that, I showed them my hands, emphasizing that I didn't have my bag. They must have thought they caught up with me before I could file the papers. But I had already submitted the divorce application. So, damn. You'll regret divorcing a husband who didn't cheat. Is that all? Just took a surprise too seriously? Can't you take a joke? Despite their rush to prevent me from filing the divorce papers, their efforts were in vain. And they started to hurl insults in frustration again. Still pretending to be innocent, are you? I've already collected enough evidence to prove your affair. Evidence? Yes. You thought I would tolerate the cheating because I'd struggle financially after a divorce. But I'm not the kind of woman to stay silent after being ridiculed. I had hired a detective agency to monitor them, and indeed, they were frequently meeting in secret. There were photos of them entering a hotel together, cozy and intimate. They could no longer claim there was no physical relationship. No matter how much you deny the affair, I have all the evidence. From now on, you'll be hearing from my lawyer. Look forward to paying a substantial amount in damages. As I smiled and delivered these words, the two were left speechless. No. Don't leave me. I just gave in to temptation, you are the one for me. Then, Steve got up and clung to me, sobbing. Stop it, you're pathetic. Saying things you don't mean just because you don't want to lose your job. You should be with that young girl instead of an old woman like me. Even as I tried to pull away, Steve clung to me, crying loudly. As I wondered what to do, a patrolling police officer approached us, asking what was happening. I explained the situation, and they detained Steve. Why is this happening? Steve was sprawled on the ground, seemingly crying. It's all your own doing. Goodbye. I left him in the care of the police, bid farewell to Steve, and walked away. Later, through my lawyer, I pursued damages, including slavery under cheating from Steve. With all the evidence of infidelity in place, he reluctantly agreed to pay the compensation. When I told my parents about the divorce and its reasons, they were furious. They never liked Steve much, especially since he had avoided them. My father confronted their company about the lack of employee discipline. The executives, faced with my father's fury, pleaded for him to calm down, promising strict actions against Steve and Megan. Steve was demoted and transferred to a regional office, effectively removed from the corporate fast track. Megan was transferred as well, and their affair became a scandal within the company, leading to their eventual resignation due to the hostile work environment. Rumors say that after resigning, their financial situation was dire. Megan started working nights to support him. But Steve, unable to handle his fall from grace, became unemployed. Eventually, Megan, tired of their constant quarreling, left Steve, who then spiraled into mistrust and isolation, now living on social welfare and remaining indoors. While I felt some pity for how far he had fallen, it was all a result of his own actions, having taken his wife for granted and indulged in his whims. However, I recognize my own faults too. By always yielding to Steve's demands and enduring, I allowed his arrogant behavior to escalate. I am now working as an office worker in my father's company, where I met a single manager with whom I share a respectful and communicative relationship. We plan to marry soon, applying the lessons from my failed marriage with Steve. Seeing my new partner enjoy my cooking every day, I feel confident that this time I will find true happiness with a trustworthy partner.